our Hanging Out feature.
Hanging Out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
And on our Hanging Out feature this morning, we've got Dr. Pepe Marais, the founding partner and group Chief Creative Officer of Brand and Communications Group Joe Public. He is really an advertising pioneer whose company has really dominated the industry for so many years. I'm sure you've seen their ads, you've seen some of their work, but he's really quite incredible and probably one of the most humble people as well that you'll come across. But also what makes him even more cooler is because he supports pirates. No?
Not true.
Okay. Then you're not cool anymore.
I was just making fun there.
So when I was talking about pirates, like he did like a pirate sign, and I thought that's the man.
No, so I'm just going with the flow. What's happening at work? I know it's a big game this weekend.
It
massive.
is.
Of course, it's Nedbank as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, but traditionally, look, I'm a Afrikaans guy, so rugby is my game. I can't play it, but I love it.
But you love that.
But hey, it's soccer, eh? It's part of this nation.
It's going to be so fascinating over the weekend. How are you? Thank you so much for making time for us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much for the opportunity, Clement. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you being here. I've always loved reading about your story because it's just so fascinating. I think you're really a thoughtful, inspiring leader. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creative people, I think, really appreciate the work you've done. And when you speak about your journey, that somehow inspires them and helps them on their path as well. And I want us to go back to that journey and maybe start from when you were a newspaper delivery boy. Because, I mean, from that to being an advertising doyen that you are, a creative leader in the advertising industry now, just take us through that journey. How was it back then? And did you know then when you were a newspaper delivery boy that one day you're going to be Pepe? The Pepe.
That's a good question. I was just thinking maybe I should answer, those ads in the newspapers really excited me.
Yeah.
But not true. I'm always very conscious of my privileges. So I just want to put that up front. But in that old South African society, I grew up with little means. So to start delivering newspapers at the age of 12 was to create income to help my mother feed the family. So, and I'm always very grateful looking back because I think that was the seed that was planted to me becoming an entrepreneur because I was making my own money from the age of 12. So delivering newspapers, I wanted to become a civil engineer because one of my friends had a rich father and they lived up on the hill. So I lived next to the railroad in a semi-attached house with my mum and my sister. They lived on the hill, so I aspired to that. And his
dad was an engineer?
His dad was an engineer. So that's how you make money. And that's really sad today when I see the township kids all aspire just to doctors, lawyers, engineers, because we assume that's the only way to be successful. And then we don't realize we spend 80% of our lives working and then we don't do what we love. So I would have fallen into something I didn't love. I went to the army. Back in the day, that's what we did, conscription. That's actually the first time where I met colored guys from the Cape Flats because they were allowed to go to the army. There weren't any black guys in the army. And I somehow connected and made friends with them because they could speak my language, Afrikaans. But at the end of the army, I was flying from the border of Namibia and Angola to South Africa, and I met a graphic designer. For whatever reason, that's why I go, there's a greater plan for all of us, because that I was absolutely focused on going to study engineering. And this guy had a portfolio, and he showed me his portfolio, and I was, geez, what is this? And he said graphic design. And instantly I changed what I wanted to become. After 7, 8 years of going, I'm going to become an engineer, I decided to get into graphic design. Still did not know about advertising. So I'm not one of those people who aspire to advertising my whole life. And then did a 3-year design diploma at a little art school in Cape Town. And then on the night of my graduation, drove into an agency called Ogilvy and met a photographer, and I was like, this looks like amazing.
I want to do this for the rest of my life.
This is what I'm going to do. So I followed my intuition more than anything else and found myself in advertising.
Mm-hmm. But were you creative though, as a child growing up? Are there moments you remember where you thought, in hindsight, I see that there was a bit of creativity in me?
No. That was what's fascinating. So, yeah, I drew. My mum will say, yeah, you did draw. I drew little cartoons, but it wasn't a big thing for me. I actually stole a beautiful picture. I mean, I'm just speaking off the cuff, whatever comes up. So you might have to censor. But I remember seeing a beautiful picture in Standard 2, grade, what's that? Grade 2. Or Sabi, it was called back then, grade 2. That's why someone drew and I stole it and pawned it off as my own. So I was obviously attracted to beautiful pictures. And I drew a little bit, but my first artifact was drawing a girl that I fell in love with at school's face on a chicken egg. So that was probably my first act of art. And then funny enough, that girl left me for a guy who could play guitar. So the second act of art was I was going to get her back, so I learned how to play guitar in the army. So I didn't know I had this inherent...
Yeah.
So the first time I really started realizing I've got a latent artistic skill was at art school, because we did life drawing.
Yeah.
You can imagine now, Afrikaans boy out of the army, conservative, and you draw naked woman. That was like I remember blushing almost every lesson for the first year, but you get used to it.
Yeah.
And then discovering I can really draw well. And then I always believe if you can draw well, it's not a standard. You get a lot of very good designers that maybe can't draw well, but I think drawing as a skill does affect your design capability. Definitely affected mine. So no, none of these things were predetermined.
That's so fascinating.
Crazy.
What is it about the advertising world that fascinates you so much? And what is the influence that you've also picked up about this world?
Yeah. Sure, I can go wax lyrical, eh? I've never fallen out of love with it. I've been in it now for 34, 35 years. I've not woken up one day not excited about going to work in my life. I've never on a Monday gone, or Sunday night, go, tomorrow's Monday. So this industry of advertising, I often make a joke because it's said that it's the second least trusted industry in the world, second to politicians. And I go like, I use this as a joke, but it's probably the most powerful industry in the world. If you think about it, if you didn't have advertising, you wouldn't have television. Yeah. You wouldn't have radio. You wouldn't have any social platforms. So I saw on LinkedIn an article this morning about, we all know the consultancies are buying advertising agencies. And there was this whole thing about consultancies eating advertising's lunch. I didn't want to comment on it. I felt I'm not going to rise to it, but I think it's narrow-minded. Like to speak about, while we're eating your lunch, I'm like, I don't think you understand exactly what advertising can do and what advertising has done for brands like Nike and Apple, and in this country for sure, for so many brands, if you do it right. And there's maybe areas where we can add a lot more value, but I love it, man. Like the stuff you can do in advertising, the way, if you really seriously look at advertising, and maybe we don't take it seriously enough because there's not enough good work, but when it's done well, it grows brands.
I mean, I was looking at, I've seen your work, the ads that you guys have worked on, whether it's Uber Eats, Nedbank, Nike, Chicken Lick, and you name it. And for some reason, every time I look at that, there's a feeling you have. There's a relatability aspect there. So it's not just about the brand, but it's also about you, and it centers you. And I always wonder, how do people manage to tap into that feeling where I watch that and I go, it makes me feel in a particular way, and I'm not just thinking about the brand. I actually go inward.
Yeah, that's what a lot, and that's, I don't rant anymore because I take life that it's the way it is for a reason, and when it feels like it's really bad, it actually inspires good. So there's not a lot of good work out there, and I think that's a problem in our country. Globally, it's a problem because we see what's happening. Everyone is concerned with short-termism. Globally, we spend $750 billion on advertising. 92% of it factually is ineffective.
Jeez.
because it's just rubbish, like churn, short-termism. But we need to go through this to discover the truth. But when you do truthful advertising, that you speak about, the stuff that resonates with consumers, because consumers, they don't buy what you're selling, they buy what you believe in.
Yes.
So when you sell them a belief, then you start connecting with the consumers, and then you start building long-term relationships with the brand. Because that's ultimately what we do. We create relationship between a consumer and a brand. And let's face it, we can't really trust politicians. Religion's under pressure. So brand has got quite a role to play.
Yeah.
So we should do it a lot better. That's our focus. Our work, I give a lot of credit to our people. We're a diverse bunch of people. And when you're diverse, you do better work.
I like that. And speaking of diversity, because this is something you've also been passionate about, and I know you've been proud of the transformation journey that the business has undertaken under your tenure. Tell me why that is so important to you. I mean, you talk about when when there's diversity, there's better work as well. When did you realize that it's imperative for the company to go through this journey?
I honestly will not be truthful if I knew. I've been thinking about it. I was at breakfast. I just came from breakfast with one of our, I can't go one client's better than another, but we love some of our clients a lot more because they really empower us to do the work that we believe works. But we're going to get all of them there over time, But I was at breakfast with a client of ours, and I was discussing exactly that. I don't know if it is... I don't think, and actually I believe it's not like a guilt thing. I think for some reason, because of my backstory of childhood, I find it my duty to, and I do find it more duty than anything else, to drive diversity and inclusion for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason, but I think it's linked to childhood. But I find it a deep sense of duty. It is something that I am proud of because I know that we were driving it before we were on the transformation scorecard. So something inherent in us, we knew that there's something better that's going to come. It's not always easy because when you're different, you don't agree. But nothing worth it is ever easy. So it's a journey we're on together. We're all figuring it out together. And there's huge gaps to improve. I said the other day, the best car in the world has not been built. And the best advertising campaign has not been made. Life is about growing and improving. So the journey of transformation and making the world better is never going to end. I don't think, not in our lifetime, not in the next 10 lifetimes. So it's a journey, but I am proud of it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we're going to learn more about you and understand your journey as a business leader. I know I've got already WhatsApp voice notes coming through, some text as well. I want to go to one of your favorite songs now. Yeah?
On 702.
Yes, yes. We do special things for special guests. So, Paul Simon, tell me about Graceland and why that's one of your favorite.
So, I didn't know you're going to ask these things. I just quickly pulled those out of a hat. Why did I choose those? So, firstly, that vinyl record was given to me by the love of my life, my high school sweetheart. That is still in my house at the river, our house, not my house, our house, our weekend house. I've got a vinyl record player. I've got all my vinyls there, and that's in my collection. And it's quite interesting. Why would I resonate in the 80s to Paul Simon? Because back then I wasn't aware of how he created Graceland. And that he illegally came to South Africa because there were sanctions and started playing here and discovered the musicality, the African musicality within this continent and within this country. And how he then flew those musicians to New York to make those magnificent songs. So there's such an African link to such a global icon like Paul Simon.
with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
10:33 on our Hanging Out feature. Dr. Pepe Marais hanging out with us this hour, founding partner and group chief creative officer of brand and communications group Joe Public. I've got someone here who wants to know what your relationship is with doubt, Pepe. Someone says, please can you ask him if he sometimes finds himself doubting? And how do you deal with doubt?
No, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory to being able to say no. I've got deep belief, like you almost can't take me off my belief. But that did not come easy. So I was very doubtful. I had a deep sense of not being good enough, which came through years of conditioning, childhood trauma, all the way through just the way we brought up. You know, people question you, or teachers say you're stupid, or someone say you're dumb, or like all these things that we carry unconsciously. So my biggest driver to actually start my own business with my partner, Gareth, was probably the fear of not being good enough. So that doubt, not being good enough, was actually a gift that drove me to start a business. And then the ambition to make it the best was driven by I'm not good enough. What was fascinating in my late 30s, normally the male's midlife crisis.
Oh, is that where I'm headed? I must buckle up
38 to 42, buckle up. You know, and then there's some serious questions that happen at that period of our time as men. And I realized that the key to unlock my purpose, my reason for being, was actually this fear of not being good enough. And once I figured that out, anxiety left my system to a high degree, and doubt left my system. But doesn't mean I still get a bit nervous, you know, coming even on your show. It's not like I feel a little bit of butterflies or speaking in front of people. So, and those things are good to me. You know, they're human and they keep us alive. So I'm very alive and I'm very ambitious, and I dream of a lot of things, and I see a lot of potential in people, but I don't have doubt. Yeah.
What's your definition of success?
I've got a very clear one. It's quite long, and I live this, and I measure it. But I want to create. To me, success is if I can create environments of harmony and joy, which is. It's quite interesting because it's difficult to create it in the ad industry, which is so volatile, and there's so much pressure in this economy. But environments that's harmonious and joyful, where the focus is on the well-being of people, we grow people and assist them to achieve the highest levels of self-confidence and excellence, and the nurturing of ideas and dreams and trust, to me is big. I wouldn't say I deliver on that, so I'm not successful yet. But that's my definition of success. And then in order to do that, I do strive to be a leader of humility, you know. I try and be more compassionate. I try and act with love. I can be very tough. I can hurt people, and I'm working on that. I've got a new role in our business, and it's actually helping me become a lot more empathetic. But I'm on a journey, you know. I'm hard, and I can be ruthless. But as a leader, I'm learning that that's not a good way to lead. And it's interesting because leaders don't have leaders. So often.
Yeah.
So
that's so fascinating. You're reminding me of something which I'll come to in a moment. I've heard you before talk about the best advice that you've ever received, but I'll get to that in a moment. I want to quickly take a call. I want to ask you to please put on your headphones. And let's take a call. 011-883-0702 is where you can give us a call. We've got a call now from Kanye in Johannesburg. Kanye, good morning.
Morning, Clement, and morning to Pepe, my friend and my brother, and fellow climber summiting Mount Kilimanjaro together many years ago.
Nice.
No way. We never celebrate the things that you really do outside being great and being a leader. But Clement, this guy is one of the superhuman beings in South Africa, ensuring that young people are given opportunities. I have a child who is talented differently, and Pepe was one of those people in the industry I could call upon to give my child an opportunity. Today, that baby girl Pepe is qualified. she's overcome all her challenges because of people like you. We need to talk more about South Africans like you, my friend, who make South Africa a better place. I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much. Talk
Sure.
about our climb to Kilimanjaro. Love you.
I'm like in tears. I can't believe you're phoning. I haven't seen you for so long. Geez, amazing light. I'll never forget.
Kanye, thank you for calling. What a wonderful call. How was that, hey? Mounting Kilimanjaro.
I'm literally in tears. That was a life-changing experience. And Kanye, I'm literally crying. She's amazing. And the people I met there, because it was the first time that I was in a minority ethnically, you know. And I remember it was me and Heidi, and we were all black. The whole group was black. And my one friend is Sibusiso Vulane, so he led us up.
Yeah.
And then everyone was speaking isiZulu. And then they'll go like, oh, we've got the white oak with us. We speak English. And we had this life-changing experience above the clouds where we sat for about 10 hours in a tent. And we shared our life stories. And it was incredible. We each had an hour to share our entire life story. And the realization that we are all the same was profound. That's why I got so emotional when she called me. I was like, what?
Okay.
Amazing.
Oh, that's good. That's amazing. 19 minutes before 11 o'clock, we're hanging out with Pepe Marais on our Hanging Out feature this morning. I want to go to your next song, Pepe. Maybe guide me here between Nora Jones or the Hot Chili Peppers. Which one should we go to? And why is it so special?
Let's go for the Chili Peppers. I mean, I'm a bit of a rocker. I was a musician for 16 years. I played a lot of gigs all over this country. I had incredible experiences. I almost left advertising for music in my younger years, but I realized that would be a mistake.
Is that a passion of yours?
Yes, big passion. Music's a massive passion of mine. But I'm a generalist. You know, advertising, we are generalists. But yeah, I love music, and this is my favorite band.
Scar tissue that I wish you saw. Sarcastic Mr. Know-It-All. I'll close your eyes and I'll kiss you, 'cause with the birds I'll share. With the birds I'll share this lonely view. And with the birds I'll share this lonely view. And push me up against the wall. Young tucker girl in a push-up bra. I'm falling off.
That's a good one.
It's a goodie.
That's definitely a good one. I've got some questions that are coming through that I'll get to in a moment. You were speaking about leadership earlier on, and how sometimes you could be a ruthless leader, but because some leaders don't actually have leaders. Is it sometimes a lonely journey, being a leader? Like where you think, but who's leading me?
Yeah.
And I know now people can get coaches, executive coaches. Did you ever experience loneliness in that position?
Yeah. So referring to the song and leadership, so this song, the context of the song is recovery from addiction. And Anthony Kiedis speaks to drug addiction, but I think we are addicted to bad behavior taught at childhood, and then it plays out in our adult lives, and we don't do the work to actually recover from that addiction. And leadership for me, especially when you start going into healing yourself as a leader, because hurt people. And if you have a leader that's a hurt person, unconsciously, that person's going to hurt people. I know that because I've been there. Far less nowadays, but it's something I'm very, very aware of, how easily I can hurt people with my words. And that's all just addiction from childhood behavior that I saw a role model behaving like that as an example. So I think that once you go into the inner journey of leadership, we really start becoming aware of your role and how you affect people. It is a lonely journey. And I'm in this third book I'm writing now, I did ask the question, who leads the leaders? Because leaders, everything rises and falls on leadership. That is the truth of it. We can say we're all leaders, even you lead yourself. But in the position of leadership, everything, I mean, you can transform a country that took 50 years to transform from the top down, you can transform in 5 years if there's a will. But who leads the leaders is a very interesting question.
Yeah. You raise an interesting point about addiction as a behavior, because most of the time we look at it as we're looking for a substance. Or do you drink alcohol? Do you take drugs? And that's we normally associate addiction with. But sometimes it's our behaviors. And probably all of us are addicted to something in some way or the other. But we just focus more on substance addiction and not so much some of our behaviors.
100%.
So that needs healing then. When did you start your own journey of healing? And does spirituality play a part of that for you?
Yeah, 38. So I'm 56, turning 57 this year. So almost 18, 19 years ago. Became and that's so significant now that I'm speaking about it, that in 18 years, it's almost like compounding investment. You know, when you start saving little bits of money, for 15 years it doesn't do anything, and then suddenly it starts becoming enough to start making money. And I'm seeing this in my behavior. I'm only seeing a shift in my behavior in the last 2 years, a real shift. But it's been an 18-year journey of consciously working on my own behavior, healing myself as a leader. Because it's amazing how many people we touch without even knowing that we touch them. So if we can touch them, and I'm not saying to become less firm in my ambition and my strive for excellence and wanting to ensure that we're the best. And I'll tell you one thing, Clement, the reason why I want us as an agency, as a business to be the best is because our vision includes growth of people, diversity and inclusion, and conscious leadership. Now, you can have all these beautiful things you stand for, but if you're not the best, if you're number one, you've got a much more of a voice than number 150. So even wanting to be the best is linked to actually making a profound impact.
Yeah.
And to do that, all leaders have to work on themselves to become better leaders.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get the best out of other people.
Yeah. Someone else was asking on Twitter, asked me to ask you about your view on the advertising industry right now. How do you assess it?
I think it's so fine. Like, let me just say this. I'm reading a book. I'm reading so many books, but it's one of the books I'm reading is a book written in the 70s. And the challenges in advertising book. And the challenges they were struggling with then are exactly the same challenges now. So it seems that this world, the way the world moves, the way we want to move as people, we want to change fast, like the digital age. But the way the real world move seems to be much slower. Real impact happens more over time. I think the industry has lost its way. South African industry has lost its way for sure. I've no doubt. I mean, there's just not. I've been in it since 1990. So I saw the transformation of the country, the transformation of advertising. I saw the caliber of the work. There were a lot more better work. We have somehow lost our focus on what it is that we do. We sell a creative product. You wouldn't sell car brake pads and be fine with it if 98 of those car brake pads don't stop cars. And I would honestly say 98% of what we do is not doing what it's supposed to do. So based on that, I think we're in trouble. But that gives us a role to play as an agency to lead the way and to keep our ambition to improve every single day and be better at what we do.
Yeah. We're just about to wrap up our conversation with Pepe Marais. Let's wrap up with this favorite song of his as well, Blick Bassie. Oh, what a coming song. Gee by Blick Bassie. I've got two quick questions before we wrap up, Pepe, that I want to ask. There's one, someone asked about the best advice you've ever received. What would that be? And what's your relationship with money?
Okay, the first one is not one I received, but it's one that I learned through cellular learning, which is real deep, like touching a plate when it's hot. You really learn it at a different level. So I learned this through bankruptcy, heartbreak. Maybe I wouldn't relate it to death. I haven't experienced a close death. I lost my father. But the worst thing that can happen is the best thing that can happen. I've seen that bankruptcy enabled us to buy Joe Public back from IPG, New York listed entity. We were owned 100%. You know, my broken heart at school got me into music, and I became a musician. I mean, I can give you 100 examples, and I wish we can all become more aware that when you look at life like that, bad is not really bad. It's just something that happens that inspires you to do something better.
I love that.
Relationship with money. I changed my relationship with I respect money. Money is the root of all good. You can do really great things with money if you apply it well. So I really respect money, but I'm very free with money. So I'm a saver. I save half my money and I spend half my money. And I spend it well. So I've got a very good relationship and a healthy relationship with money. And money to me is a byproduct of purpose and a byproduct of bringing value. And often when people go, I want to earn more, I go, add more value. I want to make more value. Create more value. And I think that's where we've lost the plot. We try and make money. We should make value. And then you make money naturally.
Oh. Pepe, thank you so much, man, for coming through.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your brilliant work over the years and for being a doyen and influencing and inspiring so many people in and outside of your industry.
Really appreciate it.
It's a minute before 11.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's Walk the Talk.